Hello, this is David Ansell. I'm just going to give you a few basic tips on Seitei Iai. Seitei Iai is also known as Zenkev Ren Iai and is the combination of lots of people putting together 12 techniques to give people a basic idea of how to currently do Iai. It has been formulated from at least three styles. And everybody, or most of the people that practice Iai in Japan, start off with Seitei Iai before possibly going on to an older set of forms, or what they call Koryu. Myself, I practice with a sensei in Japan who is Dai Nippon Butoku Kai, as well as with ZNKR teachers. So I'm very lucky and very fortunate to be able to look at different aspects of Iai and modern Iai and old Iai. What I'd like to start with is with Seitei Iai is the fact that it's fairly strict in its teachings, in as much that there are things that we must do and things that we mustn't do. As an example, placing our sword into our belt or obi, we must ensure that our sword guard or suba is in line with the middle of our body and not set to one side. This is fashioned in this way so that our end of our sword, our skagashira, is pointed off over approximately to an angle of 45 degrees. There is a reason for this. I have my own personal views on why it's done like this, but this is how it's normally done for Seitei Iai. So to start with, if our sword is in the middle of our body, what we are trying to do, we are assuming on the first technique that we'll be demonstrating in a later video, that we have one opponent seated in front of us. We are in the seated position also. But to start the draw of a sword, if the sword guard is in the middle of our body, when our hands rise from our side and take hold of the sword, we must ensure then that we release the sword from the scabbard with our thumb. From there, what we tend to do is we pull the left hand slightly back so it brings the scabbard back. This then brings the sword to a middle position. And as we draw and finish the cut, we find then that our left hand is right round to the left side of our body as far as possible. In Muso Shindenru, we ensure that our sword scabbard has been turned over and is now flat. From this position, we can then move to the second position. So once again, from here, when our sword is put away, we end up make sure our sword is in the middle of our body. When we're drawing the sword, hands come up from the side, release with the left thumb, and as the sword scabbard is pulled round to the left, the sword comes to the middle, and then we perform a cut. This is an absolute basic move. Okay, so looking at that from the side, from here, sword suba is in line with the middle of the body, hands come up from the side, release the sword with the left thumb, pull the left hand back and perform the cut from here. Bring the sword and the scabbard back to the middle, perform noto, which we will run through in a later video. And here, now it's very, very important that when we have finished this draw, our left hand must be as far round to the side as possible. And we are trying to get so that the scabbard is in a horizontal position. We want to try to avoid the scabbard in this position. So we end up with the sword and the scabbard as flat as possible. This is for Seitei Iai.